You want perfect customer service, beautiful product, satisfaction all around. When you have that kind of a structure, you're constantly giving.
When you market that you do the best, you have to be able to deliver it with your best ability, but at the same time, like, protect yourself.
It's about communication, it's about transparency. It's setting clear expectations about what you're trying to do and how you're trying to work with them. But the other piece that we don't talk as much about is the consequences of not adhering to that structure.
Hey folks, so welcome to episode 11 of Moments in Construction and the Prawdzik Pod. Today we're super excited to have the R&R Legal team. We have Sherry and Chris Rodriguez here today. Welcome, folks.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Okay, so we're super excited to have you here today. Today we started off our discussion. We got here, and the first thing that Sherry asked me, she was like, "Are we doing paintball again this year?" So let's talk about that first, about just our dynamic in terms of the fun that we have outside of work. Who wants to talk about the paintball a little bit?
Whose idea was it?
I think it was both of our ideas. Because we were going to go paintballing together at some point. And
Oh,
you're
no,
like,
you said a quarterly event. Yeah,
let's just do it as like a giant event and have everybody there. And
Yeah.
we were supposed to have like separate teams. So our team didn't have enough people for the squad. So we
Yeah.
just intermingled.
Intermingled. That was fun.
Well, it's
But we
good.
also went at the wrong time of the year, though.
Yeah, it was really hot.
Yeah, it was very hot.
But it did rain.
What?
It did rain.
Yeah.
Made it worse, actually.
What do you mean?
A lot of mud.
That's what war
lot of
is. That's what battle
humidity.
is.
Couldn't
Right.
see through your goggles.
Wait, I just have to say, Sherry crushed last year when we went. She
Of
was
course.
always like the last one standing. Let me tell you.
She still has the flag.
You do
I have two flags.
She has two
flags.
flags.
We played Capture the Flag.
Yeah,
And
Sherry
so,
was on my team.
Yeah.
Sherry was on your
Yes.
team?
Yeah.
Oh, that was another thing. It was
And
so
Janice
funny.
was on my team.
It was so funny
Janice
because
was on my team.
on the bus ride there, I was talking so much shit. I was like, oh, like, I'm going to get you out, this and that. And it just so happened that the teams ended up splitting up. And all the people I was talking shit toward were on the other team. And so immediately when the game started, like, everyone was just attacking me. I felt so attacked
Erica
and
cheated.
betrayed.
I hit her twice. She didn't get out.
If it helped, I couldn't see who I was shooting at.
Yeah.
I just looked for the ribbon color.
Yeah.
We just
I
need to
couldn't
give
see.
you a bunch of armor next time and just keep you in a bubble.
I
And
think so, yeah. Just roll me around in a bubble. I still have bruises actually from last year. I
No
mean,
way.
they're very faint,
Oh.
but yeah, if you're going paintballing, make sure to layer up.
So I've got a funny paintball story. I took my my cousins and out paintballing for the first time down in Jacksonville years and years ago. And I had normally had that experience that we just had when you get the big suits, you have the thing, you have the padding, you have all that stuff. Down south, they don't have any of that. So you show up and
No gear?
and I'm sitting there, I'm paintballing with like a wife beater on because we had just come from the beach. And they were like, "You're gonna paintball in that?" I'm like, "Don't you guys have anything?" They're like, "No." And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess I'm paintballing in that." So I'm running through this thing like Rambo style, getting like hit all over the place. And I'm talking to my cousin, and I'm like, "Man, that was a good time." Boom, and his foot was right under my paintball gun, like 3 inches away.
Damn.
And so he has this welt that he's had for like over a decade now.
Yeah, I mean, it's painful when you have the clothes on. I can't imagine when you aren't protected.
Yeah, and he was paintballing in flip flops, so it wasn't a good look.
But anyway, it's fun because we're also competitive, that when we are out there on the field, there's just like no holding back. So everybody just goes in. So I'm excited for October. We're doing it
Yes.
again. We just agreed.
Yeah,
Looking
October,
forward to it.
November, yeah.
Yeah.
There has to be like 50s where you can layer up and you're not a sauna.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, when
That's a
your
good
body
idea.
heat starts
Yeah.
to heat up, it goes
Yeah.
up in the mask and you can't see anything. It's terrible. I lost both my contacts. My things were fogging up. At one point, it raining and we were doing that shipment map, which is looks like shipment from Call of Duty,
Yeah.
where it's all crates and stuff. I'm slipping and falling. I busted my ass like 10 times. I'm a freaking. I scraped my shin at one point so bad I couldn't feel my shin for a while, and then David hit me like 3 times here. Oh, you still see it? He hit me like from point blank.
Yeah.
He's like, surrender. I'm like, go fuck yourself. And he hit me. But that was fun. No, that was great. I love that.
No
that was a
wonder-
great
Good
idea. Now we know, got to go later in the year when it's cooler, for sure.
No wonder you slept the whole way back.
Dude, I was.
Yeah, you were
Oh,
out.
that,
You
and
were
then
out.
Well, you know what really killed me is I'm not used to eating like that, like super like food truck type of food, and I was starving, so I had like 6 or 7 burgers, but they're small, right? I'm like, I put those fucking thing down like Krabby Patties, but I got sick. I'm like, dude, like this is such bad quality shit. Like I just had so much of it in one go, and I never have it. And it's like if I had it here and there, maybe it wouldn't hit me that much. But I felt sick to my stomach. I'm like, oh, and I was done. I was like white. I was pale.
We had so much fruit that day too. Why didn't you just have all the fruit?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I did. I had a lot. I had a lot of food.
Yeah. Okay, so lesson learned. We know how to do it better this next time around. But anyway, so we're excited to have you here today. Do you guys mind sharing a little bit more about R&R Legal, what you guys do, the services that you offer, just to get us familiarized?
Sure. So, the firm has morphed a lot over the years. We've only been around for 3 years so far. It was kind of formed out of necessity and out of a need to create a better environment for lawyers to work. And so when we started, the intent was for Sherry to entirely have the firm to herself. It was supposed to just be her way of having a trust and estates practice. And so she can start out actually better explaining how it started off.
Oh, well, when I went to law school, it was never to be a lawyer because I never thought lawyers were fun to work with. But I ended up in a fellowship that was really rewarding, but I also learned that government was also not the space for me to be in. So I was left in a spot where I had to figure out what I wanted to do next. I learned a little bit about real estate investing, which was really fun. But I still wanted to get back into some type of professional position. And I considered working for other firms, but when I didn't find one that fit me well, I just created my own, meaning to be just a space for me to work when I wanted to work. But then parallel to this whole story is Chris, who's my husband also. He needed a place to stay too, and if he wants to go into that, but that's when we started to realize we need to build a business. And the fact that we actually serve business owners, like we actually know how to be business owners where we need to pivot, and we wanted to gel those two together with knowing how to interpret the law and how to use it as a tool. I just thought that worked really, really well when we were working together and bringing that.
Yeah.
Like a place to stay, what? Like house?
to work and feel comfortable. So the place that I worked at before, I told you a little bit about it. It was a complex commercial construction litigation place. So we're talking about, the Trocoms of the world, the Tishmans, the big name construction companies that build the biggest skyscrapers in New York City. I represented all those guys. And so in that world, there's people that you like to work with and there's people that you don't like to work with. And I was under the wing of a fantastic partner. He was a great guy. And he really motivated me to kind of go above and beyond. But with that, I kind of commit myself whole hog to everything. So I don't mind the phone calls at 1 o'clock in the morning or like the hey, I need to talk something over dinner. Can you come by? Like that was never an issue for me because back when I was working in the city, I was working till like 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning on the regular. And so there are some people like like I'm sure you've experienced that when you give, they'll take as much as they can.
Oh, of course.
Without any regard to your own personal boundaries or what you need to actually exist and have a life of your own. So I ended up, I told you about this. Well, I don't know if you knew about this, but I was hospitalized for a while. And, doctors had no idea how it happened. I had like a gastrointestinal bleed. And they were like, well, we don't know where this came from. There's nothing in your system that would explain it. You're a pretty healthy guy. You don't have any predispositions to this kind of stuff. And I was hospitalized for a week and a half. So there was a point in time where they didn't know. It was like very like one day up, one day down, one day up, one day down. I was in the ICU almost the entire time I was there. And so I got out of that experience, thankfully, and they were just, it just came to realization with Sherry that we just need a better place to practice. We need a better place to call home. Because if I'm going to sit there and, give my life away for people, they don't really have any regard for, how much I give in a given circumstance. And so now we have control over that. We can practice the way we want to practice and we can live the life that we preach. And I've always been small business. My family's always been small business. We grew up with it. My mom's got a jewelry store. My uncle's had a bunch of electronic stores. My dad has had a bunch of electronic stores. And I've seen them and make all their mistakes. So what I wanted to bring to the table with Sherry was let's figure out a way to prevent these small and mid-sized businesses from getting caught up in the nonsense, getting caught up in a situation where they can't afford to get out of anymore. Like my dad had to declare bankruptcy when I was in middle school, and we almost lost everything.
What year was that?
That was, what was that?
2000.
2000? Was it 2000? 2000.
We're not in the same.
I know. I think it was around 2000. It was around 2000. And we almost lost everything. Almost lost the house. We managed to keep the house. We kept one of the jewelry stores. But like my dad had to cover like $8 million in losses over the course of a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah.
And so we had to liquidate like everything. And it all could have been a better situation if he had thought about, well, maybe I should get legal counsel. Instead, it was always like, I don't need to call an attorney. You know, it's too expensive. I don't need to call an attorney. It's not worth it. It's going to slow me down. So we want to service those people and say, look, there's an affordable way to do it. There's a predictable way to do it. And it's worth the time because you're not going to end up losing everything. And if you're in a bad situation, at least we'll find a way to carve out as much as we can to protect you in any way that we can. Because otherwise, you're just left out into the wind. You don't know which way you're going to end up and how you're going to end up and who's going to end up taking from you what they can.
Yeah.
I also think where I was coming from, the reason why I originally wanted to do trust and estates is I found that was a space where there weren't enough attorneys who were focusing on what people wanted. Because if someone is, whether it's a business owner or a person coming for their what they want to do with their estate, people don't really know what they want because they don't even know what's there. So focusing the question on, well, forget about legalese, forget about the tools, that's my job. Just talk about what you want. So if you're a business owner and you're building an empire, or if you're building just a little space that you can have some, a side business, where you have a hobby or whatever, you just want to make a little bit more money, or if you want some tax benefits from being a business owner, right? It's important to know what you're trying to create, because then it's a lot easier for us to figure out different ways that you can do it. And we very much believe in putting the business owner, our client, in the driver's seat. But to be in the driver's seat, they have to know all their options. You could go to California, you could go to Canada, you could go to Texas, you can go to Mexico. And while some of them are sort of on that same way, if you don't know your current destination, maybe you'll get there, maybe not. But to the extent that we can help you control your destiny and actually create it in an intentional way, like I think that's how lawyers are supposed to be working with their clients. We're really meant to be your strategic advisor to help you see all the different ways that you can go about what you want to accomplish, and then you decide what's best for you.
Okay, and so I didn't know that, Chris. Thank you for sharing.
There's a mic too far.
You're right. Thank you. I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing. I think back to your point, sometimes life gives us the signs that maybe we don't know we need in a moment. It's very unfortunate that
Lemons.
how it manifested. But
Life is life.
sometimes it gives us the lemons that we need, for sure.
Oh, God, I don't want to manifest any more lemons.
No, but I do. I'm a strong believer that sometimes if we're just comfortable enough, we'll keep doing the thing that we're maybe second guessing for the whole time that we're in it. And you need that abrupt moment or like wake up call for you to pivot into what it is that you're supposed to go into. And
I'm
again,
pregnant. Talk about that.
I can't imagine.
That's
you
an
as
abrupt moment. Oh, shit.
Oh, I thought you were like putting Eric on blast or something. I don't know.
No.
Well, on that note, joke's on you. No, but you guys touched on something. So you really created this business more out of a necessity. So what are some of the other ways? And you touched on, you have the perspective of a business owner, and so you're able to have that level of empathy and understanding with your clients. What about with your team? What are some of the things that you implement now so that you're not, there's some sort of a harmony, because you guys do a lot of work and there's still a lot of shit that you need to get done. So how do you draw that line for your team?
Oh, God, it's like a lot.
A loaded
question. Because we so as business owners, you guys know, like it's about pivoting and knowing when to pivot and how to pivot and what you have to do, what's not working, figuring out what's not working, distilling it, finding the thing that works. And so we're constantly pivoting, right? Everybody's constantly pivoting. But I find for our team especially, like there's two things that we definitely need the most. The first one is obvious. It's like education. we have to constantly invest in our people over and over and over again, as much investment as we can, as frustrating as it might seem, which is funny because I had a call with my old boss, like the one that I really liked. And I was like, man, like you have no idea like how much I understand how frustrated you must have been dealing with me, because I was a firecracker. Like I did not take no for an answer. I threw every argument against the wall. I was just like, let's just throw it in. Let's see. Let's get everybody a little angry. Let's just have fun with it.
Let's ruffle some
feathers, right? And so he was just like, no, Chris, we got to be a little more civil than that. And I'm like, why? They're not being civil with us. Why should we be civil? I've got a great argument here. He's like, no, let's just focus on the main thing. And so that level of education and investment, it takes so much out of you as a business owner that people don't really get. But it works out in spades. Like we've seen people on our team just evolve into much more than what they used to be. We have associates that have been with us from the very beginning. We have an associate who's doing his first year as an attorney this year, and I'm the one that swore him into the bar, but he has been with us since the beginning.
Well, he also worked with you previously.
Yeah, and he worked with me previously at a different firm. And so we got to see like his entire evolution from, not an attorney to paralegal to almost an attorney to baby attorney to becoming kind of an attorney. And that transition, like seeing how he's like become somebody who can handle a caseload on his own so early in his career, how he has such a wide breadth of knowledge. There's an egotistical issue that pops up with every attorney that you kind of have to address. But, the investment, the investment is way worth what you get out of it. The reward is insane. It's really a special thing to see.
I also think the question you're posing, like any business owner has to deal with that. So are we perfect? No. Do I hope to continue to grow and evolve? Yes. And I hope that never actually ends. I think that's one of the most important things, is realizing that it can always be better, but sometimes good enough is good because we can get forward and get process. I think one of the things that we do with the team is we're very careful to who we add. We're looking for people who want to serve clients in a certain way, because not all attorneys want to do that as a profession. Some attorneys really just like, oh, you want this? Let me just draft it up for you. Here you go. And there's no interaction. Versus we want people who actually are genuinely curious about helping, how they can best help their client, and they're going to get to know their business, and then they're better able to see what other avenues that they can bring up that the other person wasn't thinking about. But it's because they had that dialogue, because they took the time to get to know the client and what their goals are. We're able to be much more than just a transactional attorney where you want us to do this. Okay, we'll take your order, no problem. Let me go chef it up for you, right? Another thing that we do is we very much invest in our team. I think coming from an industry where lawyers traditionally are not like that, it's something very important that we find people who want to connect, and sometimes it takes a little bit more hand-holding to remind them that you're human too. Use that. When you're struggling to connect with something, you can use that to connect with the client. So it's a lot of teaching, a lot of mentoring, a lot of coaching, but I think it's worth it because that's the only way I think lawyers should practice.
That's the best
Matt,
capital.
How does that translate to us on our team and how we serve our clients? What is the trickle effect here?
That's the most important thing, is human capital. I mean, you have to know how to work your people, and you have to know how to treat them, and you have to know how to give them the path. Again, like I always say, I don't walk the path for you, I just pave it. If you want to walk it, great. If you don't, if you want to veer on your own direction, then don't say I didn't tell you, But it's 100% fact, Who you hire, one bad hire can set you back miles, right? One overextended hire, meaning the worst type of hire you can make is something called a silent contributor, a guy or a girl that just shows up and does what they need to do and nothing more, nothing less.
Yep.
Because that just they'll just do what they need to do, and therefore you have to indirectly look for reason to say, listen, you're not here, you're not a part of it. You're here, but you're not you're just doing the bare minimum, right? So that's the worst. A silent person, a person that just doesn't put his best foot forward, because that will set you even further back than making a bad hire. And just educating, constantly teaching. Like, we obviously always advocate, always read a book a quarter, at least one class a month per department, right? Ideally. Always teaching in the financial calls on Wednesdays, always teaching on the strategy calls on Fridays. You know, just constantly always evolving. We have our idea bank, we have our issues bank, we have our our delegation list, right? So obviously always like constantly growing. Like, and it's cool to see, right? Like the delegation thing we put together in March, now in June, and then again in September and then December. The percentages keep dropping and dropping and dropping. And just for you guys that don't know, it's like, in the beginning when it was by myself, like not by myself, but a smaller team, we made a list of like all the things that I did, and we attached a percentage next to it, how much I contribute, and then we attached the department that needs to run it. And in March, and like I think it was like February 20 something, and March 1st, right? We put this list together, and a lot of it was like a list of like, I think there was like 65 things on there. Right, and we attached the department. This department needs to lead this. Matt does it right now 80%. This department needs to lead this. Matt does it 95%. This department needs to do this 60%. And now when we revisit it in June, that whole original list from March is basically 85% delegated to a certain extent with some other stuff. I made another delegation list now in July for another set of delegation tasks that needs to be done. Right, but this time it was much more difficult. I still came up with like 40 things, but this time they're way higher level, right? So that's like, you don't necessarily need to teach people by education or classes. You can simply just teach them like, this is how you fit. You are this chess piece. You are a part of a bigger team. This is what you need to do to contribute to that team. Learn this, and by you doing this, not necessarily learning something new in a sense of like knowledge, but just being more accustomed fitted into the team, you by nature will scale yourself dramatically more, right? So, I don't know. It goes to show, like, human capital is the most important, right? So, I don't know.
And it sounds like you do it too, but one of the things that we also try to do is be transparent and help people see the bigger picture. Because it's hard to...
Transparency is like
right.
number one. I forgot to mention that. That's important. Super transparent.
Yeah. I mean, the tough part about transparency is being upfront when people aren't performing where they need to.
Yeah, it's just fine. I mean, I don't have a problem doing it. I don't think I ever did. I mean, Erica can shed light on that, but, you know, I'll call people out in front of a group. I don't care. Listen, it just is
something
what it is.
that I've been advocating in terms of how we communicate is, yes, it's important to bring out the faults, but I'm a big advocate for doing that in private and doing the praising in public. And so the praising is something that we're working on as a team a little more.
Well, I think that comes with time, right? It's about the time. It's about communication. It's about trust. It's about trusting that you want the best for the person. I mean, obviously, if someone is not performing right, the key is to have a meeting of the minds, a meeting of mutual expectations. I'm expecting you to do this and perform a certain level, and you're expecting what from me? You're expecting to get paid. You're expecting what are the resources from me? Do you want me to remove something? I think those conversations are super important to have, whether it's in private or in front of your entire team. I probably lean more towards what Erica said. But, you know, every team is different. Every situation is different. You know, if you can't get a timely one-on-one conversation, I wouldn't put it off. I think a lot of people struggle with that. Like, oh, I want to talk in private. I want to be in person. I want to do this. And then a whole week goes by, right? You need to give timely feedback. And I think some people don't realize how important that is, in addition to the actual feedback in a respectful manner with the intent of raising up your teammate so that they can perform better.
100%.
Yeah. The one thing that I find interesting about our firm is we have very different dynamics in terms of how we approach these situations at times. Yeah. And so Sherry is a very calculated person, very, you know, the chess piece is going to move at this exact angle, and it's going to move at this speed, and it's going to take this spot, and I'm going to lift it and drop it right there. I'm just going to take it and move it. So it's going to be one of those things where, you know, if there's an issue that I have to address with the team, everybody to the conference room right now. Right now, let's talk. This is the issue. This is what's going on. And a lot of times, you know, my message is lost in a little bit in certain ways, but they kind of get it because I approach it from like a position of passion, and Sherry approaches it from a position of being more strategic and more like thoughtful about how it's going to impact everybody and how it's going to affect them and what their anticipated response is going to be. But for me, it's like I have like an explosion, and I just need them to see like I really care. Like I really care about the clients. It's not this facade that I put up. Like I give a shit, and I'll go to the ends of the earth for some of our clients, most of our clients. Definitely this guy.
Us included. Yeah. Yeah, I know Matt will text at all odd hours, I'm sure, and you're always instantaneously
Actually,
messaging
what I
back.
joke with this, I think Ed. I joke with Ed. I'm like, Chris, I could text him whenever. Like out of everybody I text, he typically responds.
If you're filling out a form with an emergency contact, this is the guy that you want for sure.
We always fix up.
But on that note, Matt, how does that again translate to us and our team working in parallel with R&R Legal? What are some of the benefits that we've seen on our team through that collaboration?
Everything, right? We revamped our contracts. We revamped our processes a little bit. I mean, obviously we've been, screwed over a couple times here and there, big and small. So it's like, we learn from our mistakes. Again, we don't let the same kind of mistake happen twice. And every time, every person is different, Typically, the contracts are meant for things that don't go right, right? Like if things go right, nobody ever says anything about the contract because the contract is just there, right? It's for things when things happen that go wrong. And then that's when you really start to see, okay, that might not be worded that best. That might need some tweaking, and then you start to dissect it and make it better and add to it. It's not just like a copy and paste template of just like Google, like, okay, Google project management contract, right? Or whatever, or warranty contract or change order contract, right? Like we always make it better. So the legal team obviously helps with that. In terms of like process refinements and just conversations about certain things that need to be done within like the structure of how things need to operate on the back end, right? With money flow or with, just accounts, bookkeeping, certain things in terms of just making sure that operationally we have like a checks and balances in terms of getting paid, sending invoices, doing the proper work, dotting our I's, crossing our T's, right? In terms of just like the Asana project management, some of the ideas I put into Asana was from that, just like, okay, well, yeah, the guy doing it or the girl doing the actual task of that is not thinking about that, but I'm thinking, okay, well, push comes to shove, we want to have everything documented 100%, right? Even if it's not 100%, at least it's way better than a text message or an email, So that is very important. And just, it obviously as we expand and grow, we by nature build exposure. Like they say, more money, more problems. It's the same. It's just what it means, right? Like the bigger you get, some people can't handle the stress or some people can't handle the growth because you just become a bigger target. That's all it is. Like if you're a little fish or a little, like I say, ship, like a little boat, nobody's really paying attention to you. They're paying attention to the bigger ship, Why do you think all these big fucking companies get sued, right? Because it's an easy target. They'll give you hush money of $100,000, like, and $100,000 to some people is like life changing, right? So, like you have to understand that as you get bigger, your legal team becomes better, like more important, and that's why eventually, like we're going to be forced to my vision, we're going to be forced to hire an in-house legal team because we're going to be so big that we're going to need it. Like, a lot of developers have an in-house, sometimes bigger developers definitely have an in-house land use team, right? Because they do so much land use development. And I mean, development that requires land use attorneys, it doesn't make sense for them to pay $350, $400 an hour when they can just have their own legal team on salary, right? So it just becomes, like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We just baby step our way to it, really.
Right.
Especially on the legal side. Because people typically discount the legal side. Like, you know what? Like your dad or whatever. Like, I'll deal with it later. Which is, I'm kind of like that too because I'm more of a handshake person. Like if I say something, I'll do my best to achieve it. But sometimes you get the wrong person and they'll rip you apart because it's just, oh, you didn't tell me that. And then that is like, I hate people that are like that switch up on you. That's so annoying. That's annoying. That just makes you want to strangle somebody. Right? So
on that note, here's a question for the group. When you're developing agreements between a provider and a client, how do you develop an agreement that protects and has in mind both parties? Because essentially that's, something that...
So the blood.
So it's interesting because I kind of tell Matt this. You guys provide a very difficult service, not just because of what you do as a practice, but because of the way that you want to deliver those services. You want to deliver at the top end possible. You want perfect customer service. You want a beautiful product. You want satisfaction all around. So when you have that kind of a structure, you're constantly giving. You're constantly giving your time, yourself, your energy. You're constantly finding ways to accommodate the client, coming up with ideas to make something better or look better or feel better. So with those kind of situations, people give an inch and they take a mile. For you, you're giving miles. And some of these people are going to want to take you around the earth. Yeah. So when we have to prepare these contracts, it's, we're thinking about, well, okay, we need to have a certain level of transparency and comfort that the customer is going to feel. They're going to be like, okay, well, we're going to work with Matt. Everything is set in stone, that things are going to be disclosed to me. We're going to talk about it. There's going to be, transparency in the project. There's going to be a set method of communication. And we're very big about making sure that what you practice is in what's been written down in paper. So, the Slack communication methods that he wants to incorporate, that you guys want to do, to have a specific dedicated channel that you are doing, to have a dedicated channel of communication for the clients. That's all built in. So it's not going to come as a surprise to any of your clients when they're like, oh, well, why are we using Slack? No, it's in the contract. It's there. This is what we do all the time. There's a level of legitimacy that comes from that too, because it's spelled out in black and white in a 10-page agreement that we've culled through and modified and changed as
it's blood, sweat, and tears,
and as the companies had to change and adjust here and there. So we try to make it comfortable, transparent, but also rigorous. There are things in there that you have to do to get to the next step. There are specific paths, right? Because every decision has to go down a path in any kind of procedure. So you have to do this. It has to be noticed. It has to be in writing. It has to be on this platform. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. Yeah. And then if it doesn't exist, you don't have to worry about it. But you guys do a really bang-up job about making sure that people feel comfortable coming to you guys with more changes, coming to you guys with adjustment, with personalization. And so accommodating for that and protecting you guys, it's about making sure there is as much structure in a way that fits your business model as possible.
And same thing with the client too. Gotta make sure they do it. Again, the problem becomes is like we want to do the best we can, and we feel like our pricing is very competitive, because we've actually cold shopped builders. We said like somebody on our team calls just as a cold call and says, what do you charge? Sometimes it takes a little more massaging and more effort to get numbers, and we are definitely at the bottom tier of price per square foot. Definitely, like in our market anyway, right? If you go South Jersey, it's obviously not anymore, but in our market, we are. Right. And when you try to deliver the highest level of service while still maintaining somewhat quote unquote affordable price to the owner or to the client, you have to really work as efficiently as possible, because at the end of the day, one mistake can drastically reduce your margin. Like I'm a big advocate if you want to charge your clients the most amount of money. The most. Why? Because that eliminates any potential squeezing on your end to be able to afford more, to give them more, right? If you're not making any money, you're not going to want to do more. You're going to barely do the bare minimum, right? So if you charge your clients a fair or above market price, their expectation is higher, but we're able to deliver more because we're getting more, and we don't have to be nickel and diming you for everything. Yeah. Right. And do we nickel and dime? I don't think so. Sometimes, the team stops me saying, okay, we shouldn't charge for this, we shouldn't charge for that. And that's why I don't make any decisions with that anymore. because at the end of the day, it was like, you know, like, okay, maybe we could charge for this, maybe we could charge for that, but at the end of the day, we try our best to not nickel and dime. And when you market that you do the best or you try your best, right, you have to be able to try to deliver it with your best ability, but at the same time, like, protect yourself in case something, because it's subjective. You might think it's really good, but somebody might move in, and if you're looking for something wrong, anything could be wrong. Anything. Like, the most perfect thing, if you're purposely looking to find something wrong in it, you will find something wrong, right? So it just comes back to that. As people that want to screw you will always screw you, or people that feel like they were taken advantage of will always feel like they got screwed. Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter. So, I mean, again, with the legal team, I think we have a good strike and balance, right? In execution, operation, and then legality or legal side.
I think it's also important with the agreement. It's about communication. It's about transparency also with the client. It's setting clear expectations about what you're trying to do and how you're trying to work with them. But the other piece that we don't talk as much about, because it's not as fun, is the consequences of not adhering to that structure, right? So that's also an important component whenever you're coming up with an agreement with, where you're providing a service to a client.
Yeah, or just, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not appeasing situations.
Diffusing.
Yes, there you go. Diffusing. Like, just knowing how to say something properly to diffuse certain situations, not just go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Although we really do want to say that most of the time.
But the good thing is
As
having
for my
it.
last email, go fuck yourself.
for the most difficult people only.
Yes.
No, but that's fine.
That brings up a great point, which you guys alluded to in the beginning. You're both very clear on who your clientele is and who you're trying to serve. And so in a similar fashion, our company is learning the same thing. What is our client, and how can we make sure we match up with the people that we will best serve? So can you describe a little bit more again about, do you guys mainly serve small businesses? Is it a mix of clients that you have?
So that's a tough question, like, because people are going to find you based on your reputation either way, right? So I have reputation in the construction industry. Our partner Victor, who he came with, we grabbed him. He was my former manager. We grabbed him from that last firm, and he has a very solid construction reputation too. So there's going to be some larger clients that we service, but our aim is to be on the mid-size. We want to have,
What is midsize? How much is that?
What is mid-size?
Okay, so
it depends on the industry.
So, like, is midsize based off employee count, revenue count? Like, what is mid?
It's how
Hours billed?
It's how you want to do it, unless you have to do statistics. But I'm
Yeah.
going to take over this answer.
Okay, take over the end.
But like, what's okay? So,
But
what's
in
industry-
terms of that,
industry
we
known?
actually base it off of revenue.
Revenue,
But
okay.
I would say thank you for recognizing that we're clear. We've actually done a lot of work, just like any other business. It takes work, especially if you. I will say it's important to have one decision maker anytime that you're running a business. It does not work when it's 2 people or 3 people. And I know it sounds like it's 2 people, but we do try to have a consensus. But ultimately, you need one person in charge, because if you want the diversity of all these opinions, you have to have someone who's able to say, okay, that's great discussion, but we need to move forward, right? So because of that, we've actually had the 3 partners, Victor, Chris, and I, we've had these powwows where we are getting fine-tuned, like, who is our target client? But we also figured out, well, what are we trying to accomplish? And so, yes, we do have an ideal client, but we know what we're trying to do. And that clarity helps us make decisions. So in terms of who we serve, yes, we're going after the ideal client. But because we want to serve in a way that we want to be a resource for the community, we want people to understand that lawyers don't have to be scary. Lawyers don't have to be, arrogant and talking at you. It could be a conversation where you actually be strategic partners with them. So that's important for us. So I think that, and knowing that anyone could become a target client later, right? Just because where you are now doesn't dictate where you are going to be in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. So we approach every person who we talk to with that mindset, knowing that
That's
the type of work that we'll keep, what?
That's called a tomorrow customer, by the way.
Yes, I'm aware of those terms. So yes, tomorrow customer. I try not to
Thanks
use...
for the mansplaining, Matt.
I try not to use jargon on purpose, so I do try to, people call me out when I'm using terms that people don't necessarily know, but you're correct, yes. If you know that term, tomorrow client.
What is automatopoeia?
It's a sound. It's a word like ba or.
Ah.
It's a word that mimics a sound. Yes. But going back to that, but when you have a clear target, you know when it's right. So if we want to be this type of law firm, standing for a way for attorneys can work a different way, both for their profession as well as for the client, then it's very easy to decide if someone's asking us about a very personal legal issue, we're going to take the time to talk to them. We may not be the right firm to do the legal work, but we're still going to talk to them with respect. We're still going to try to help them understand their options. And to the extent that we have in our network, we'll connect with them.
So who is your target client? Like, who is it?
It is a business owner or someone who wants to build a business based in New Jersey or New York, and with the revenue of at least $1 million. And we want someone who's driven, who actually cares about the business. Okay. So it's not so much as someone who's trying to just build passive income, although we absolutely can help that, structure that. But it's someone who cares about making something work.
Even if it's like a solopreneur? Like an
Yeah,
individual guy?
solopreneurs work. That's fine.
My law firm was going to be a solopreneur.
My
Like,
uncle's
it
a
wasn't
solopreneur.
necessarily meant to be with a team.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, so you've seen how many properties my uncle has. His team is 3 people.
Yeah.
It's him, my cousin Eli, and then 1 secretary.
And then, and then a bunch of subs.
He's got subs, but it's all licensed. It's all contracted out.
Yeah.
But that's why we base it off of revenue. So in terms of,
It's like you're considered a sub to your uncle.
Yeah, I'm a vendor to him.
yeah.
Okay.
But if you do it by employees, like we just know too many people with businesses that are multi-million, close to billions, and they don't have a very big team.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's the name of the game nowadays. That's like where it's pivoting, right? What's that called? Where you outsource VAs and stuff like that? I mean, there's like a specific term for that in the business world now, where everything is like gearing towards why hire American when you can hire.
Outsourcing.
it's outsourcing.
No, I know, but no, there's a specific term for it.
okay.
I forgot what it was. But yes, it's outsourcing to other people.
But there's it's always a give and take with that kind of stuff too, because you want to try and take as much off your plate as possible, but then how do you ensure a continuity of the level of service that you want to have?
Oh yeah, like I hate. It's not that I hate hiring VAs, but in real estate, just like people buy real estate because it's tangible. People like to buy real estate from tangible things, like people, right?
Yeah.
So you need people boots on the ground, right? Like it's what I always believed in, even though it messes with our salary numbers, it messes with our like, can we make more money if we hired VAs for a lot of the roles? Yeah, maybe, but you can't hire a VA for a construction role, right?
Yeah.
You can't run a project from the Philippines,
Yeah.
right? So it's like there's certain things that you have to have, and again, that's why I always say like the real estate game is just like. It's like always everyone's end goal because like, oh my God, like look at all these components to this. Like you can make it very simple and own a passive income rental property where you make a couple $1,000s a month and you can go travel the world. Or you could be a behemoth and own half of Manhattan and still not be happy.
Yeah.
Yep,
Right.
absolutely.
So there's like, and everything in between. So it's like,
Speaking of the near future, so I'm interested in hearing what's in the works or what's exciting and upcoming for you guys, whether it's in the next 5 years or the next 10 years.
Well, we did do something that was pretty important, so I'm going to talk about that for a second.
Okay.
We represented a pretty large scale construction company that had been screwed over in a contract, and there's a pretty large case, and we actually filed an appeal to the First Department of New York City for them. It's something that not many attorneys get to do. It's a pretty exclusive forum, so it's feels good to get that kind of thing under your belt. So that was our first appeal that we've put together in New York City, and it gets argued in October, and it'll be live streamed.
Oh my gosh.
So that's going to be fun.
Kudos. Wait, who's on this? From the
It's me and
team?
Victor,
Okay.
and we have Gabe working on it too, but
Okay.
it's mostly me and Victor. The client wants Victor to argue because he's got the old man appearance that judges tend to respect.
Yeah.
And plus, he put Harvard Law next to his name and stuff. I don't
Yeah.
know, something about that.
But without all the titles, Victor just has a presence. When I first met him, he's so regal and just kind, and
Yeah.
so he's definitely. I would want him representing me too. So
You've definitely just made
he has
him
a
blush.
deep ass voice. Too. He has a deep ass voice. Too.
Deep voice.
Yep.
yeah.
Matt. I've been reviewing your contract, and I believe
Yeah, like
there are terms here that need to be adjusted.
yeah. He definitely talks in a very like radio talk show.
No,
voice.
but that's so freaking cool. Kudos to you guys.
Yeah, it's a big
What?
case. If we win it, it's gonna set
Yeah.
a bit of a kind of a precedent that was gonna warp the construction world in New York City for a while. So here's to hopefully we get a good outcome.
Yeah, no.
And that's something we're really looking forward to.
Okay. I'm excited for you guys.
Yeah.
We've got a couple other things coming up too, but more on the personal stuff. I
Yeah,
think.
it's not law firm related.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about everything here, so if you want to share, you go
Yeah.
ahead. But
We're buying. This has been like a long time coming kind of thing. My uncle owns the building that my mom's jewelry store is in. So my uncle came to me and he's like, "Look, like I want to, do right by you and do right by your mom, and I want to make sure that whoever takes over this building is going to take care of your mom, and I don't think there's any other person who could do it besides you and Sherry." And so he, we're very grateful. He kind of gave us a sweetheart deal on this thing. And it's in a rehabilitation zone, and there's a lot of things. I was talking to Matt about it. It could be a very big project, and it's cool because we went up there, and it looks like the third and fourth floor have not been touched since like the 1930s. And this place used to be like one of the Republican Party headquarters in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and it looks like they had massive events there. It's gorgeous. Well, not now, but you can tell that it used to look gorgeous. So we're gonna turn that, rehab it. I think we might refurbish the front to give it some historical feel. But
They're probably gonna make you do that anyway.
Oh, we're gonna want to do it either way.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty cool building to have restored in that way. There's like really nice like architectural reliefs and things like that all over the place. So that's gonna be a fun one.
So I did learn, like in real estate, when I first started looking into investing, they say pick one lane and like get really, really good at it.
Oh yeah.
I hear that. I actually think that is the best approach, but it just wasn't my path.
No.
So like we went from buying the first property with 4 units with tenants that were problem tenants and seeing if we could fix that. It's an older home, so I learned about all the headaches of that in not a very pleasant way. But then when we did our renovation, instead of doing a light renovation, we did a full gut, took
gut.
off the roof,
Down to the studs.
added bathrooms, added bedrooms. And so this will be our next project. So we're really,
Yeah.
I'm very much looking
And
forward
we're trying to
it.
do a pilot attached to it. We're trying to get, some HUD grants
But it
attached
kind
to
of builds upon what we've done already.
Accessibility.
And we have the right people in our network
Yeah,
to
of
like
course.
get it done.
that's my favorite thing about hanging out with Chris and Sherry is you can always count on them being up to something. Like,
Yeah.
can I tell them real quick about your birthday celebration this
Sure.
year?
Okay.
Okay. So whether it's like business or just adventures, they're always doing something. And so for her birthday this year, Sherry and Chris was it Wisconsin or Minnesota?
Minnesota.
And she drove like one of those tanks, like military tanks.
I don't think that's how you drive
and
them.
crushed.
That's
Yeah.
a car.
Well,
You
that's
drive
how
them
I
like this.
drive
You
it.
drive them like this.
It's 2 sticks. It's 2 sticks.
Okay, she was driving a military
left,
tank. But not only did she drive a military tank, she also drove over a car, right?
Yes,
Like you
yes.
crushed a car.
Yes.
So that just in itself is just it alludes to the fun that they have, but also how hard they work as well. So I'm excited to see and hear about your projects coming up. But with that, we're at the end. So thank you
so
for
sad.
sharing. It's always a great conversation with you guys. Hopefully we can coordinate that, they can come back and we can
course.
ask a little bit more about
got a
what you
couple
guys are
extra.
up to. But anything else for the crew before we wrap up?
I think I'm good.
No? Okay.
That's
Well,
all right. You can just call me and I'll bill you for it.
wait, are you charging us for this time too? or-
All right. So one thing we didn't talk about is, we try to service.
Yeah.
We do try to service mid-sized and small business owners, and we try to create a method of predictability to the bills. It doesn't fit all things, but we do give you guys a pretty sweetheart deal in terms of a general counsel practice where we do answer and facilitate questions and assist with contract review and other implementation without having to charge extra. And so we do like a monthly subscription model, or membership model, really is what it is, and we provide a certain scope of services in those
It's a
models.
SaaS, right? A SaaS model, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
SaaS, S-A-S, S-A-A-S, whatever.
We have our encyclopedia here today.
I don't even think I forgot to mention that too. It makes you feel like you have a legal team in house without having a legal team in house.
Yeah.
So it's nice. It's a nice
That's why when
If you
Matt
want
calls
the
me,
terms, it's a fractional
Fractional
legal,
general
in-house
counsel.
legal team.
fractional.
Yes.
Yeah.
that's the term.
So
We should have a glossary of terms at the end of this podcast. is
we're
what
gonna
we
need a definition
Listen,
section.
It fits well with the legal.
Whereas the following definitions have been used in
Heretofore.
conjunction with this.
You should do
with
this.
onomatopoeia at the top. Okay, well, thank you, folks, again for joining us for what was this episode 11? Moments in
11.
Construction. Prawdzik Pod. Again, you have Chris and Sherry. Thank you again, R&R Legal Team, and until next time, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Don't forget your sign.
Which sign? Oh, we have to do the marker.
Oh.
And wait, Sherry, please do the honors. And
And cut.
scene.
And scene.
See.